Evening's entertainment on BBC One. In a moment, Sue Lawley steps in while Terry plays truant. And at 7:35, head of the class.
I'm a mathematician. My father and grandfather were mathematicians. And his father and grandfather were mathematicians. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, it means you're a nerd to the fifth power.
On the menu at 8, a special helping of porridge.
I've a job to do, and whatever else I am firm, but fair. I want you to know that I treat you all with equal contempt.
At 8:30, more cordon bleu comedy in Surrey.
What are all those sausage rolls for, Mother? Feeding the 5,000? Or have you got Russell Grant coming round for tea?
At 9:30, Panorama looks at ferry design in the light of the recent Zeebrugge tragedy and asks, are we sailing too close to disaster? At 10:10, Harry Carpenter reports from a very wet Wimbledon 87, where there's been no play today. So at 10:20, Starsky and Hutch make an unscheduled appearance on the trail of a cop killer. And with Two Nations at 11:10, that's Monday evening on BBC One. And that's an evening which begins right now on Shepherd's Bush Green with Sue Lawley.
It's very exciting to be back. I see one of the papers this morning kindly printed a letter from a viewer who said he was pleased to see me standing in for Terry again. I exuded an air of calm and authority, said Mr. Raymond Foster of Swindon Wilts. Well, Mr. Foster, you should feel the muscle behind my right knee just now. It's hardly calm. It's far from authoritative. Golfers get the twitch. Snooker players get the tremble. Lawley gets the right knee wobble. However, tonight is the night of the beautiful people. Me apart, that is. I'll be talking to Terence Stamp, he of the stunning blue eyes, to that other great 60s survivor, Cliff Richard, and the Cliff Richard fan club is here tonight, and to a very courageous woman, Diana Lamplugh. But we begin, and this is where I'm allowed to edge over to the comfy bit. We begin with a woman who was once elected one of the 10 most beautiful women in London. Now, anyone who's anyone knows that we, the British, at this moment are in season, which doesn't mean we're breeding like mad. Some of you maybe. It means that last week was Ascot, this week is Wimbledon, next week is Henley, and you can't buy a punnet of English strawberries for love nor money because the big caterers have bought them all up. Well, my guest is a woman, a lady indeed, who's celebrated the season on many occasions. She's one of the most dedicated and best party givers and goers in town. Put very simply, she knows how it's done. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome the Viscountess Rothermere. Wonderful. That is not just for our benefit, is it?
Unfortunately not, no, because I've got to go on to a dinner and dance afterwards, and I didn't have time to go back and change with all the rain and everything.
Well, I'm glad you didn't.
But anyway, let's go.
You have this nickname which I know you hate, which is Bubbles.
Yes.
It's a wonderful, presumably born of all the gallons of champagne that you dispense.
No.
No?
Not at all. It is because it was given to me by Nigel Dempster, who writes in our column from the Daily Mail.
The paper which your husband owns.
I make people feel better. And when I come into a room, people start to feel happier.
Well, he's quite right.
And also, I suppose, because it is, on one charity thing I did, there was always champagne waiting for me in the hotel room.
So why do you hate it as a nickname, then? It's a very fond name.
Well, I think it's frivolous, and actually, I'm not actually frivolous.
Aren't you?
No.
You've been seriously doing the season for some time now, haven't you? I mean, are you doing it this year? How's it going?
Well, it's always the same. You know, it's different things, different. There's always Ascot, there's always the Derby, there's always Henley.
But Ascot isn't
everything.
always knee-deep in mud, which it was last week.
No, no, no. It has been divine. I mean, it depends entirely who you go with and who you're with.
Who did you go with?
This year I only went once, and I went to have lunch at White's Tent with some American friends of mine.
But don't the people change?
Yes, they do. When I first went, it was very, very elegant, and the Royal Enclosure particularly was very elegant. But now I think that you have all these people who are sort of very disastrously dressed in these big hats and miniskirts and see-through blouses, and it's quite embarrassing, really, for some of them.
I think your own Nigel Dempster said, didn't he, that it's now full of spivs and people on the make. Is that the case, that really it's not the colour of your blood anymore, it's the colour of your money?
It's really people seeking publicity a lot, you know, and then there's the genuine people who like to go to Ascot, who really enjoy it. They come down from the country where they live and they see all their friends, and it's a really nice, genuine sort of thing, you know. It's sort of, there's two kinds of people that go to Ascot. A lot of young people enjoy it and love it too.
Well, of course, that was the whole point of the season in the beginning, wasn't it? That it was really a marriage market. It was where you introduced your young things to beaux and belles.
Not necessarily Ascot. Yes, Ascot is one, because the after-party Ascots are very good. But all the whole season is really sort of people giving parties in the good weather, of which we have very little at this moment, to give them a chance to meet the friends of their, their friends.
But does it work?
The children of their friends.
Does it work? Have your children met their future husbands and wives at these events?
One of my children has met somebody, but it wasn't at one of these events, no. And one, no, they don't. The young now want to go their own way, and they want to choose their own friends.
Young things have minds of their own.
Yes.
They don't listen to mummy anymore.
No. You can lead them in the right direction, but you can't make them, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
But you lead them to water and make them drink, presumably, at your own parties, which you're so very good at. What is the secret? What is the secret of success for giving a party?
Well, it's getting people that I actually like myself very much. I go to a lot of parties, and I usually find that I like some particular person, or I like a lot of particular people in different parties. And I know that if I like them, that the people I like will like them as well. And so the ingredients of the party are the people.
So you've got a good guest list?
Yes.
What do you expect from your guests in return for the champagne you're giving them?
Well, I suppose reciprocation and enjoying themselves. I just want people to be happy, because I think life is so short, and I'm very privileged in lots of ways that I can give parties and bring people together, that I really want to sort of see them, enjoying themselves, and usually I want them to feel happier for being there.
So you've also presumably got to have good staff in that case. You've got to have good, discreet people pushing the booze round, but not too much of it.
That's right. Well, I have got very good staff, but it's not like in the old days when I first married my husband, and at St. James's Palace we had a gloved footman behind each chair. Now you employ a couple who do these parties, and who know you and know the house, and the whole thing is great fun. And I set it all out, and I do all the arranging of the parties. I mean, I do all the seating of the parties, which is the hardest thing to do, because people hate to think they're sort of not well placed, or they're not well seated, or and there's always grumbles and mumbles and all that sort of thing.
Have to be right to the next people.
So I usually think of myself in that place, and would they like to talk to each other? Will they be happy? And I have been responsible, I think, for a few romances.
Really? You do it most wonderfully. I have to ask you finally, Lady Rothermere, you once said that if you lost everything tomorrow, you would be extremely happy behind the ribbon counter in Harrods, it has to be said.
Yes.
Are you quite sure you'd be happy behind the ribbon, on the haberdash?
On the haberdash? I think I would, as long as I had my friends and I was healthy, and yes, I think I would.
And you were happy?
Yes.
Well, you brought us some happiness tonight. Viscountess Rothermere, thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, Viscountess Rothermere. Lady Rothermere's lost her glasses down the sofa. Bye-bye. Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to put the sofa back because she moved the cushions and we've got to... Wonderful. Because my next guest is, or has been called, I don't know if he is, one of the most beautiful men in the world. I don't know if it's true because I haven't met him yet. And for women at least, beauty is rather more than skin deep. He's a man who rose to fame in the 60s when he and Michael Caine were the playboys of Chelsea, when he and Jean Shrimpton were together the symbol of the beautiful people. But that was a long time ago. In quieter mood now, he's written a book about his childhood. It's very touching, very gentle, and in parts it is very beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, would you welcome the East End boy you know better as Billy Budd, Sergeant Troy, or indeed General Zod in Superman, Mr. Terence Stamp. Do you want to move the cushions? Are you all right?
I think I'm okay.
You're okay. I asked Lady Rothermere, Bubbles, what I should call her. I don't know. You are always known as Terence, or are you Terry, or are you Tellboy? What are you?
Oh, Terence is fine.
Terence. It's quite a sort of superior name, Terence, actually, isn't it?
I think when I was born, I screamed for 12 hours, and they had to put me in an oxygen tent and christen me immediately. So,
just in case.
Who knows where the name came from?
The heady success of all of those 60s days, does that seem like an awful long time ago now, or are the memories still very vivid for you?
I had somebody say the other day that if you remember the 60s, you weren't there. But it was like yesterday for me.
Was it? And your childhood, of course, as you reveal in your book, is even nearer. Perhaps the detail is amazing. I mean, the lino on the floor, the winkles and celery for Sunday tea, the first kiss. I mean, it's a wonderful book. But it seems to me reading it, that it's a book actually all about women.
Yeah, I think that's true. I was about a year old when the war started, so Dad rejoined the Navy. And
Up the Navy.
I was in this female household, you know. My mother moved back to her mother's house, and I was brought up by my gran and my mother and my mother's sisters. So the early influences were all feminine.
But you obviously, I mean, your mother was obviously, for a long time, the most important woman in your life. You loved her very much.
Yes, I became, I think what happened was that as my mother hadn't been very long when the war started, she lost my dad to the war. He wasn't there. She was a young married woman in love with this very handsome guy who just was absent. And I was there.
And you write in your book that really you've spent your life trying to live up to her expectations. I know that she died last year. Do you think you did live up to them? Was she proud of her, Terence?
Oh, sure.
Was she?
Sure.
Your father, though, you mentioned your father, he thought you were a bit of a sissy, didn't he?
Yeah, when he came back, when the war finished and he came home, I was already sort of entrenched in his role. You know, I'd taken over from him. So I saw him as a rival. And in fact, my brother Chris, I think that my dad felt that I'd been ruined by all these women, and that he would personally take care of Chris's upbringing. So,
but I'm not surprised he thought that, because, I mean, you say in your book that you were demanding to have your hair permed when you were 10.
well, I saw, you know, which twin has the Tony, and I wanted that.
What do you do with it now? Do you perm it now?
No, as I get older, it's become curlier, you know. It seems like my childhood desires have visited me in middle age.
And you were always fairly obsessed, you say in the book, by clothes. You still obviously are. I mean, they're very important to you, aren't they?
I think I'm a bit less obsessed now, but I was very obsessed, yeah.
You didn't have, and the book covers the first 18 years of your life, you didn't really have a lot of success with women, did you? You did not pull the birds.
They were hard years.
But you've been making up for it ever since. Huh?
You could say that.
I want you to tell the story of the first kiss of Ethel Proud at the garden gate.
Yeah. She didn't respond to Ethel. You had to call her Tony. That was the name she gave for herself. But I don't know whether all guys have a thing about the first woman that touches them, but touches their heart, guys, touches their heart.
The suspense is killing.
No, it was just the most wonderful thing. I think it's your first kiss. It was such a big deal, you know. I thought about it for years.
Before or after?
After.
And the smell of chrysanthemums rose from the front garden.
Oh, I can't pass a chrysanthemum without, you know.
They're silk or plastic. Since then, not specific, they're beautiful, aren't they? They smell wonderful. Since then, Terence, you've done it all, as we said, and
I tried.
You've tried. Well, you've travelled the world. You've been on a spiritual odyssey to the east. You've tried yoga, vegetarianism, celibacy, I think, at one point you mentioned. Has any of it worked? Have you found it? What are you looking for? You've got 30 seconds.
No, I don't think I found it. I know what it ain't, you know.
What ain't it?
I know it ain't out there, you know. It's in there, you know. I think your mind is your enemy, really, and that's something you have to make your friend, you know. And in my experience, you can't make it your friend by giving it wonderful cars. You know, the answer's not out there. It's something that I think you have to get to like yourself. You know, you have to be all right with yourself somehow.
Because you're a bit of a recluse, aren't you? I mean, you hardly live frugally in that you live in one of the most expensive areas of town, one of the most expensive blocks. But somehow you are searching for something inside yourself that, are you saying you still haven't found it?
Well, I think it's just, it's an attitude, really. I mean, I have good moments, and I have good days, but I have a lot of bad days.
For us, Terence Stamp, this has been a good day in your life, I hope. Thank you very much indeed. Don't go away. Don't go away. I don't want you to go away because I want to introduce you to my next guest, who's a man who also made it big in the 60s. He's one of the great survivors. He's fresh from his royal It's a Knockout triumph. I don't know whether you saw him, but he spent most of the time dressed as a leek. Double EK. His name is Cliff Richard. I mean, you were on the winning team, weren't you? The Princess Anne team.
Of course, yes, I was actually, and it was great fun. Although, you know, it was a really damp horrible. Well, it's been a damp horrible month, really. But I caught a terrible sort of bout of sinus, which turned into a cough. And I can only blame it to being very hot and then very cold and very damp and then very hot again. And but it was great fun, I must admit.
It looked terrific.
It really did, yes, and it felt good too.
I don't know if you were listening to us just then, but we were talking about the search for the inner man. I mean, you in a way turned inwards in your middle years. I mean, you turned to Christianity quite early. Terry, we were just hearing, has turned to practically everything else on offer.
It's interesting.
I mean, what are you looking for? Have you found?
Well, I looked and I found, yes. The interesting thing is, it's really it fascinates me ever since I was about 21, when I really started to look out. You know, you look outside and you think, well, maybe I've got a rock and roll career. I know people who are actors and things, and yet we're not actually that desperately happy, whatever is going on here. And you become aware of a spiritual aspect to life. And I began to look in that direction. But that was when I was about 24. And for me, it was fortunate, I believe, that I was thrown back onto what I rejected. At 14, I rejected Christianity outright. I thought, well, if there's a God, fine, but it's got nothing to do with me and Elvis. That's it.
But don't you think, though, I mean, both of you really, that perhaps it was the fame that was thrust upon you, that in the end perhaps disturbed your equilibrium and made you feel you had to find a reason for it all? Hasn't it troubled you?
I think what the fame does, the fame and the fortune, makes you know that it is not that is really true happiness.
As Terence was saying, it's not the cars and the women can't bring you happiness.
Sure, but you don't know that until you've got them, do you, really?
Well, that's right, you don't. And the awful thing is, I feel quite often that there are probably people watching us now going, oh yeah, well, they can afford to talk like that.
Right.
And the awful thing is, you spend your life thinking, why can't we be examples in that area? The Beach Boys, the Beatles, you name it, us have all had to maybe get it to realize that in itself it's not enough.
Well, I reckon that you've both found some inner calm, because they say the inner man breeds the outer man. And I mean, you know, we sit here all in our 40s, shall I? I'll include me in this, all in our 40s. I mean, you two don't look bad. I mean,
you don't look bad yourself, darling.
That sounded like a setup. I'm sorry, I didn't ask for that. But where do you worry about first? They say you're obsessed by age, Cliff. I mean, where do you worry about? Round your eyes?
The funny thing is, I'm not obsessed by it, but I do have to live with this incredible thing about being called the Peter Pan of pop. You know, I don't know how to live up to that. If you look at an old photograph of me, you will see that I have aged. It is not possible for us to stand still.
This is true.
Maybe because of the way we dress and everything now, maybe we could even look better than we did in those days, but we certainly don't look younger.
How's your neck, Terence?
Not
Not. Oh, my neck's a dead giveaway. Close up.
Go and sing. No, don't. Go and sing for us, will you? I would love you to.
All right, well, I'm going to be singing for the next, well, a few years, but can I tell you that I'm going to actually be in Birmingham Thursday, Friday and Saturday doing my gospel concerts, which in fact I should have brought up earlier. I feel fulfilled as a person when I'm doing those, because I'm an artist communicating what I believe most, and I find that really quite a privilege.
Terrific. Well, will you fulfill us and sing What Is Your Thank you very much. I love the suit. It's terrific. This is called My Pretty One, actually, so we'll sit here and smooth our necks and try to feel pretty. What can I say, ladies and gentlemen, except that this is probably going to be Cliff Richard's 459th hit single. Just to think I had his name scratched on my school pencil box. Ladies and gentlemen, Cliff Richard.
About today, the same dream in many ways. Nothing can compare with the way you are. And I need you now as I write this song. Did I hear you say you're the only one from a lonely breath? I am in the air. Well, I dreamed about today, the same dream so many ways, but nothing can compare with you, my pretty woman. But I never thought I'd be here with you, my pretty woman. Pretty one, I long to hold you through the night. I want to hold you. Pretty one, as no one told you, I love you. Any day, and you will find me full of joy when you're beside me. In a moment like this, could it be what I've missed all my life? When I've dreamed about the day, the same dream that's so many weeks, but nothing can compare with you, my pretty woman. No, nothing can compare with you, my pretty woman.
Thanks very much indeed.